Hello. Welcome to Child Free in Africa. I'm Cody Hetzel. I'll be one of your moderators.
And I'm LeNora Faye. I am one of your other moderators.
So, our presenting sponsor today is Childfree Media. Our champion level sponsor is Child Free Wealth, and other sponsors 365 Diversity, Best Child for Life Possible, found in the Facebook groups Buy Child Free, Buy Child Free, Childfree Family, Childfree Journals, StopHavingKids.org, StreamYard, and the books The Age of the Child by Kristen Tsetsi and Wild Egg by Jennifer Flint.
And our disclaimer, the opinions expressed within the content are solely the speakers and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the event or its affiliates. So with that, let's bring on our speakers, please. We have Muthoni and Ebby. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for joining us. So we'll start out with the easy question. Tell us about yourself. Evie, go ahead.
Just to correct you, it's actually Ebby, not
Ebby. Thank
Evie
you.
all the time. Yeah, it's Ebby. So my name is Ebby Weyime. I live on this beautiful island called Mombasa in Kenya, that is in Africa. I am strongly pro-choice and very proudly child-free.
All right, and with Ani.
Hello, my name is Muthoni Getao. I live in a small sub-county called Limuru, very cold over here in Kenya. I am a cat mom of 3, and I really enjoy living this country life with my cats. And I am also a content creator in interior design and home decor. I am a proud child-free woman and also pro-choice, which means I am also pro-abortion.
All right, thanks for sharing.
So the term child-free is not necessarily known throughout the world. How is it explained where you are from? And Ebby, we'll start with you.
The way we explain child-free is a woman that has the ability to have children, but she has just consciously chosen not to have them. But so the difference between a child-free woman and a childless woman is that a childless woman does want to have children, but for one reason or the other is just not able to.
Thank you, Muthoni.
It's exactly the same thing as Ebby. Because the term child free is not a term that's been used a lot. It's very new. A lot of people are still adapting to it, and I notice a lot of people do confuse child free and childless a lot of the time. So yeah, child free is someone who has decided it's by choice to not have children, and childless is not necessarily out of choice.
And so, what is the child-free community like where you are, Ebby?
I feel like it is slowly coming to age. So many people had no idea. So many people had no idea what being child-free means, but now we're getting to that point where more and more people are understanding the term. Some people actually come to me and they're like, oh, I had no idea that not having children was a choice. So what is this child-free thing? Then they realize, oh, then I guess I am child-free. So some people have been child-free, they just did not know that that was an option or that something like that even existed to begin with.
Yeah, with Ani.
Yeah, so just as Abby said, I think there are a lot of people who were child free. They just didn't know there's a word for it. They just thought, oh, I just don't want to have children, and it ends there. And now discovering that it's actually a movement and there's a lot more people, because it's not something that a lot of people talk about. So now finding more people to have these conversations with has been actually very good, because a lot of people used to think, oh, I'm just the lone person in the corner who's made this decision. And now slowly by slowly the community it's not growing, but it's more like coming to the surface. A lot more people are being open about their choices, and it's opened a lot of room for conversation.
So how would you summarize being child-free as a lifestyle in your area? And do you think, or have you seen any differences to other parts of Africa? Ebby, go ahead.
Personally, I cannot even say that I've been within this space for for such a long time. So I cannot like authoritatively say like these are the big differences. But what I can say is we have lots of similarities. Like even when it comes to struggles to just come out and say I'm child free, struggles to get sterilized, for example. So I feel like instead of differences, we have so many similarities between us child free women in Africa and in other parts of the world.
Thank you, Mithani.
To add on to what Abby has said, I think there's also the idea of the society we live in and openness in terms of conversations. Some of these are not things that are supposed to be discussed in front of other people. We live in a very conservative society, and having like these are things that are considered to be conversations you have at home but not out in the open. So I think that would be one of the differences that I may have noticed in terms of openly speaking about this choice. And the second one is the information, or like even when you think about the word choice, we live in a society where it's considered more mandatory or it's expected of you. So when you bring in the word choice, eyebrows are raised, and now it becomes this whole other conversation.
So how do you respond to the question when you're asked, when are you having kids, or do you want children? Abby, go ahead.
Before, for me, it used to be like, because I didn't want to like say it out loud that I'm actually child free. So I'd give, just excuses like later on, I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. But since I tied my tubes, I now proudly just say it. So when somebody asks, when are you having kids? I'm just like, never. Never. I am never having children. So yeah, and usually I find that I just shut them very quickly, because after saying never, I've already tied my tubes. What other conversation are we having? We're done. Let's move to the next topic.
Yeah.
Mithani, how about you?
Funny enough, for me, I've always said never. From any time I've been asked, I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not for me. And I've been very consistent with that response. So I think some of the people who used to ask just got tired of asking. So for me, it's been never from the get-go. That's always been my response.
So we are all asked, who is going to take care of you when you get older? And what is elder care support like in your area? Is it culturally expected for the younger generation to take care of the older generation? And also, is that a conversation you've had? Is that something you've prepared for? What's the experience like for you? Start with Abby again.
So the question is always, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I froze on my side for a second. So how I answer who will take care of you when you're older, I usually throw back the question to them. And I ask them, when was the last time you saw your mom or your dad, your parents, basically, if it wasn't like a holiday or a family emergency or like something very necessary that needed to be done. And for most people, they don't see their parents, they only see their parents once a year during Christmas, And I'm like, what did your dad eat for breakfast today? What did your mom have for lunch? I'm like, who's taking care of them? So you asking me who's going to take care of me when I'm old, no one. I will take care of myself the same way your mom is taking care of herself right now, because you're not there. When it comes to old age care, it's there in Kenya. I've personally visited some of them. But it's still very frowned upon. People look at it as you are supposed to take care of your parents when you're old, right? So if you take them to we call it an old age home. If you take them to a home, then it means you've neglected them. You don't love them. And then the question becomes, then why did they even give birth to you? Your parents spent all these years wiping your butt and taking care of you. And all of a sudden you feel like you're too high and mighty. But also what people don't realize is that by the time you're getting to your 80s and you're very old and frail, your child is probably in their 50s or in their 40s, and they're also living life. They also have other things to take care of. So asking who will take care of you, you should take care of you. That's the answer.
I feel that could apply to everyone everywhere, is that we need to take care of ourselves. That's
Yes.
amazing. Muthoni, go ahead.
So my answer is usually a little different. I usually just say myself and all the money I'll have made. That's what that's usually my response. And like, don't worry, I will make sure that I'm taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. And in our society, there's a lot of people who actually have kids so that they have someone to take care of them in old age, so that they have someone to build a home for them back in the village. And sometimes I'm just like, I find that to be very sad, because as this person is supposed to be experiencing their life, then there's also all this other responsibility that's put on them, that they have to not only now just take care of themselves and the family they're building, but they have to take care of their siblings, they have to take care of their parents. And it seems like a lot for me. So I completely agree with Abby that everyone should be taking care of themselves. And like, parents need to have their own retirement plans that are not their kids, because children are not a retirement plan. And unfortunately, we live in a society that believes that to be the case. But people need to recognize that kids are not a retirement plan. A lot of things can happen. You might have children and you end up sticking around and they don't. So what happens to you then? Because you took that step, but so does that mean then you'll not have to be taken care of? Will you make no plans? So I think the important part is for guys to make plans for their future where they know how they'll be taken care of. And even in our society, there's conversations that we see around people who talk about how they don't even talk to their parents, because also there's this question about how did you raise your kids in the first place? Do your kids care enough about you to come back later on in life and actually take care of you? Because that's another aspect that people don't pay attention to. And then later on, you'll see conversations even online about people talking about how that they don't get along with their parents, they don't go see their parents. So at that point also, the conversation becomes, okay, so who is taking care of you? So I think the consensus should be everyone should just take care of themselves. Full stop.
You know, it's that assumption that we all get along with our families, you know, and I feel that, and I feel that it's not talked about enough that family dynamics are complicated. I think I don't know anyone who's had a non-complicated relationship with their family. It's of course varying, right? But just that assumption, and I feel that's also part of the conversation.
Yeah, and also the other thing that I usually ask people, I'm like, you're just stop assuming that your child will want to take care of you.
Yes.
Like, who gives you the right to say, okay, when I'm 80, when I'm in my 80s, my child will come and wipe my ass? What if they don't want to wipe your ass? What happens then?
Yeah.
So we have an incoming comment, I believe. Pull that up on the screen. All right. It's very hard to be open about being child-free in African cultures. Children are seen as the ultimate, quote, blessing. Women are looked at a bit strange to make that decision for themselves. Thoughts on that? Abby?
Yeah, it is difficult to be a child-free woman in Africa. I totally agree with Mora with the comment. It is difficult because there's so many things, there's so many moving pieces to this whole child-free dynamic, which is there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of religion, there's a lot of fear of the unknown. So because this is how we were raised, because this is what we know, it becomes very hard to just come out and say, hey, I am child-free. People just don't really understand that concept. And I'll give you a quick example. And parents do this all the time, especially African mothers. They're not doing it like maliciously. They're just doing it because that's how things are. So they'll tell you, for example, you're washing clothes as a kid, and I've heard this a million times. They're like, is this how you're washing your clothes? Is this how you wash clothes for your children? You know, or you're cooking food, and they're like, oh, this food is not so nice. Is this how you're gonna cook for your husband? So you see, when a parent does that, they're subconsciously telling the girl that, 1, you will be a mother, 2, you will be married, and 3, you will be married to a man. So what happens when I become a child-free lesbian? It means then I've just ruined everything. All your dreams and hopes about me, they're gone. You know, so what happens with that? So we have all these expectations and telling a woman, subconsciously planting this thing that this is what you should become. What happens if I don't want to become that?
Yeah, Mithani, any thoughts on that as well? Oh, I lost Mithani. All right, sorry. Well, anyway,
I'm sorry, we lost one speaker.
Yeah, and so you brought up a good point about religion. How does religion play a role in like the pronatalism aspect, or just where you are?
Our religion plays a big role. It plays a huge role when it comes to sexual reproductive health, especially among women. I don't know why they don't put so much emphasis on the men. Like it's only the woman that that they really care about. So the religion, especially in Kenya, plays a big role in terms of there's this aspect of, because I'm child free, then they assume you hate kids, and the Bible said you should be fruitful and multiply. And I'm like, is this multiplication only for children? Why can't I multiply my talent? Why can't I multiply my gift? Why can't I multiply my money? Why can't I multiply the joy that I have to the world? Why does this multiplication only have to be kids? Why?
You're dropping too much logic and knowledge on people. that's a great reaction. Muthani, I don't know if you saw the last comment, if you want to add to the comment that was asked, or if you want to dive right into our question. We're talking about religion and how that plays a role with pronatalism where you are.
Sorry. My internet had dropped.
That's okay. Do you need me to repeat the
Yeah.
question? Yeah. So
Yes.
how does religion play a role in where you are? How does religion impact with pronatalism and trying to be child free?
Ooh, that's it's a very interesting conversation, because despite Kenya being a secular state, it's heavily influenced by Christianity to some extent for some random reason. And the Bible is used a lot when it comes to these conversations about, it's a blessing from God, and you're told that you're supposed to multiply and fill the earth and do all that stuff. And I think when it comes to these conversations, a lot of people will pull out Bible verses to try and use that to convince you. That's
Lost your connection again. Darn it! It was just getting good. It was getting juicy. I could see it coming. Okay, so it seems to me, just from the outside looking in, that it's another big similarity that might just be across the board with being child free, is that the burden is laid on the women of the culture, the country, the area, whatever it is, to carry that burden of what you're supposed to have children. Is it true in your area as well?
Yes, the burden is on the woman. Just patriarchy. Patriarchy. So the burden is always on the woman, and I look at it in two ways. Like, it's on the woman because she's the one to carry the pregnancy. So also the burden of contraception. Also, you try to push it on the woman, but I still feel like it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50 balance, So the burden is always on the woman, is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day. Yeah. But it should not be that way.
No, yeah. Muthani, you were getting into it. Do you want to continue your thought on religion? Oh, darn it. Well,
I have a question. We'll bounce in between whatever happens. The child-free community in Africa, I mean, that's a big ask, but even in let's say your part of the continent, how do you foster a community there? What's your experience been like, or any advice for those that want to?
I am also, like I mentioned earlier, I'm also pretty new to this whole community, because it's only in 2020, after I had my abortion, that's when I actually came out and say, hey, and I'm also child free. So after that is when we started finding people that had similar interests. And that is why we created the Childfree Kenyan on Instagram. So everyone that has the same mindset, or wants to learn more, or is just curious, that is where we meet. So we're slowly coming up with a community, but it's still at its very, very early stage.
Gotcha. Okay. Mathoni's moving, so that's a good sign.
We see you. We hear you. Please continue your thought on religion. The question you were getting into it.
I don't even know at what point it was cut off.
Oh,
No, she's not gone again.
So, oh
Oh,
God.
okay.
Oh, good.
She's back.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. Let me just switch my internet and see if I'm going to get a better reception with this other.
By the way, welcome everybody to the live stream of the 2022
Yes.
Virtual Childfree Convention. When you're watching this in playback and on the podcast later on down the line, this is what happens when we go live. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you good?
I'm hoping this will be better.
Okay. Do you want to
Yeah.
just start? Why don't you start from the beginning and then I think we're good for time.
So how does religion play a role in your area with the child-free lifestyle, or how it affects your thoughts on being child-free?
Okay, so I am not a religious person. I grew up in a Christian household where, well, my mother used to go to church and she's a confessed Christian. Kenya is a secular state, but heavily influenced by Christianity, or I don't know if it's because of leadership or what exactly, but a lot of conversations had around literally anything. We'll find
Well, okay.
we tried.
Unfortunately, well, Muthani, if you could, this in the comment section when this is like chopped up, put all that into the comment section so
Yes.
folks can get your thoughts on it. We'd appreciate that. But with that, let's wrap up. Closing remarks. Ebby, is there anything you would like to plug or promote? How can people get a hold of you after the convention if they have further questions?
Anyone that is interested or just curious about being child-free, and especially being an African child-free woman, you can always reach me on Instagram. It's at the Childfree Kenyan, and on YouTube by the same name, the Childfree Kenyan. So, and my parting shot will just be, being child-free is not just about, we always think about women when you're thinking of being child-free, but being child-free can also include men. So yes, men are also invited to that page, and let's create a community of like-minded Africans.
Hooray! Yeah,
Yay.
awesome. And so, Muthani, you're back real quick. Plug anything that you'd like to plug and promote, and how can people reach you after the convention?
Okay, so I create content on YouTube about interior design. So I have a page called Muthoni Gitao. It's self-titled. I also do have a lifestyle channel called Just Doing Life, where you just follow me around doing the BTS and the life I live with my cats. And I am Muthoni Gitao on all the other social media platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and on Facebook, as much as I'm never there.
All right, well, thank you both for your time. We appreciate you being here. We'll get the next panel ready to go.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.